Just press, just. And we are live. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Meat of the Matter podcast. Myself and Peter will be taking over today as our buddy Tony is quite busy and he will be back next week. Today we have a special guest. Susan has been a client of mine for just over 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
Susan has done all the diets. I think she's been doing dieting now for the last 20 years. She did all the like Slimming World, Weight Watchers. She could never get the results that she wanted. She would always lose the weight. She would always regain the weight. She was never satisfied of where she was. Eventually, she started watching my videos. Then she said, right, I'm actually going to try this carnivore stuff. And I'm safe to say she hasn't looked back. So I want you guys to sit back, relax while Susan actually shares her story with us today. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask us questions as we go along. So without further ado, Susan, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for inviting me, Mark. Nice to meet you, Peter. So my story, basically, I am, well, a conspiracy theorist or a conspiracy realist. I'm basically about 4 years ahead of, what I say going to happen. When I say things are going to happen, it takes about 4 years to come out of the media. So I've been down a lot of rabbit holes, very aware of all the corruption things that go on with the medical. For some reason, I've been so busy going down so many rabbit holes. I've never actually fully gone down the food rabbit hole. I knew the seed oils were bad and I was doing my best to sort of cut them out. But late last year, I was following someone on Instagram someone just popped up on my Instagram algorithm who was promoting the ketogenic diet. So started looking into that, looked at lots of information and started to realise how anything that says low fat on it, for example, they've replaced it with sugars, and just really realising how poisonous all these processed foods were. So I started on the ketogenic diet, did that for probably about a month or so, and was following this person on Instagram. She's like a UK influencer from the Northwest. And at one point she was over in Spain and she met up with Anthony Chaffee. So she was streaming his videos. So I started having a look into him and sort of really started to realise, I thought about the carnivore thing. I thought, right, I'm going to give this a try, because I actually had, apart from wanting to lose some weight, I also have osteoarthritis in my left knee. So I've really been trying to find a way to heal it, because it's not the same as other arthritis where it's pure inflammation and just by changing your diet, it will help. So I thought, right, I'm going to give this carnivore a go. I thought I want to maybe try it for like 90 days, but let's do 30 days, and but 90 would be nice. And it went from there, really. So I think now I've been doing carnivore for about 5 months, and through the wonderful algorithm of Instagram again, obviously I was following lots of carnivore things, and Mark's stories kept popping up on my timeline. So and I was seeing the progress results for the photos from other clients he had, and I thought, so I put a great deal of thought into it. I've never had a coach before. I think I tried a PT in the gym once, which we shared with a friend, but we both had completely different goals, so we never bothered with that again. So I thought, right, I'm going to go for it, because I need a bit of help here. It's not like I used to be a runner. I used to go to do the local park run, 5k every Saturday morning. Used to regularly run 10k races, done a couple of half marathons, and I generally go to the gym quite regularly as well. But all that's been thrown out the window because of my knee problems. So I saw Mark and thought I'd give it a go, and I've now been client Mark's for about 3 months. I've lost probably nearly 20 pounds. I'm not a particularly heavy person to start with, but for me that means dropping 2 gesturides. I've gone from a 14s to a 10. My mental health is a lot better. I used to suffer with depression, and I'd be on and off the antidepressants because A, I felt that they helped and I needed them, but B, I knew how bad they were for me. So I was kind of between a rock and a hard place. I try and sort of take them for a few weeks just to, keep myself ticking along. And then I think, right, I feel better now. I'm going to come off them because obviously they're really harmful. So I used to have really bad IBS. I had upset stomachs like several times a week. never really knew what the cause was. Never put it down to food, to be honest with you. I remember calling my dad one day and saying, "Oh, I don't know why I feel so ill today, Dad. All I've had is a cup of tea and a grapefruit." I'm not adding that the cup of tea was made with like UHT skim milk, which is probably the worst possible milk you could ever have. And not realise
Sugar, yeah, it's just sugar. It's just sugar water, isn't it?
yeah, not realise that possibly the fruit could be the cause. So, and so it was very trial and error. I tried cutting out milk, and that sometimes helped, sometimes it didn't. So, since doing the carnivore, my IBS has completely cleared up. Energy levels are through the roof. I don't have any problems waking up early in the morning. I used to want naps after work, or sometimes if it was like particularly quiet at work, I've occasionally gone for like a half-hour nap when I've been absolutely exhausted. But I don't need any of that anymore, and I feel really great.
And can we go back to the very, very beginning when we spoke with each other, Susan, when you couldn't really move, like we couldn't even get you to do exercise at the very, very beginning?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of like being slightly overweight and not massive, and just the diet as well, because I was in a lot of pain with my knee. So my knee's not healed by any means. It's a lot better than it is. But I used to find that if I went out to go to the local shops, if I have to use crutches, still have to use the crutches for walking on concrete, but just simple activities like that, I'd be in pain for like 3 or 4 days afterwards. So I couldn't do anything for days. Whereas now it's still painful to do that, but the pain sort of tends to disappear within 24 hours, meaning I can get out and do something the next day. So I've started going to the gym in the mornings. I can't do any cardio because of my knee, obviously, but that's fine. After lots of research and talking to Mark, I've come to realise that actually cardio isn't the best thing anyway for A, toning, or B, losing fat or losing weight. So I do all the arm weight machines and just do what I can do, and really enjoy it. And I can feel that I'm getting a lot stronger, as opposed to just whizzing my legs around in midair on an exercise bike, pretending that it's good for me.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand. The reason why I asked this question is because there's going to be a lot of people watching this and listening to this thinking that I'm probably in the same situation where I can't move and I want to lose the weight, but I can't. How do I do it? Well, guys, Susan is a perfect example. At the very, very start, we did no exercise, literally nothing. We just focused on the nutrition, and if I'm correct, every single week we were dropping weight.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, absolutely. The gym, I've only been going to the gym maybe for a month and a half, and yes, it's getting my arms stronger, but I'm not doing anything that like targets my other areas, my stomach or my bum, really. So the gym is just, for me, a mental health thing, something to get up and do in the morning. And also, I want to get strong. I do want to have strong. When I'm using crutches, it's hard work. People don't realise that hopping around using all your body weight to prepare a post is actually really hard work. So, for me, going to the gym helped strengthen me overall. But I couldn't do that for the first few months. It was literally no exercise whatsoever, and I dropped most of the weight before I even joined the gym.
And see, we only spoke about this last week, myself, Peter, and Tony. We were speaking about protein deficiency and how people are thinking that a high fiber diet is the way to go. And I was speaking a lot about sarcopenia. Like when people get older, they're thinking that, okay, if I want to lose weight, I need to do lots of cardio. I just need to eat like a vegetarian diet, decrease my protein. But you're the complete opposite. You're giving your body the nutrients it needs. You're not doing any cardio whatsoever, and you're making huge progress. So, from what you've learned about cardio and weight training, why do you think people have this mentality that they must do cardio in order to drop body fat?
I think it's what we're taught. Along with everything, it's pushed by the media. And you see a lot of influencers saying things like, "Oh, you're going to look like She-Man if you do weights. Women do weights for a few weeks." I can only wish that doing weights for 3 weeks would give me like That, I mean, imagine you go to the gym for 3 weeks and you've just got huge muscles. That would be absolutely amazing. You're super strong after. It just doesn't work like that. And I've learned that the body needs muscles, and that is the better way to tone up, to lose weight. And by cardio, you're just getting skinny fat. Basically, have excess skin. And I see a lot of girls in the gym, and the ones who look the best are the ones who are doing the weight training.
Yeah, and I think people need to understand this, that when it comes to building muscle, I've spoken to Susan about this a few times, but when it comes to building muscle, you need to be realistic. The average person, pretty much at our age, you're probably going to gain maybe 3 to 5 pounds of muscle a year, roughly. If you're a bit younger, maybe 3 to 6 pounds of muscle, even 7 pounds of muscle. Now, 7 pounds of muscle is a lot of muscle, but you have to understand this, guys. It takes a long time to build muscle. Okay, so I want to go back to the diet. So what you know now about the carnivore diet and what you used to do in the past, and you couldn't understand why you could get to that stage where I'm sustainable, I'm happy doing this for the rest of my life. Because you used to say to me before, like you'd done the Slimming World, you'd done the Weight Watchers, you would lose the weight, but equally you would put it back on like just as quick. Whereas now things have been more sustainable. You've been doing this for now, like you mentioned, for over 5 months. You've been consistent eating this way, and you look better than ever.
Absolutely. And the problem with Weight Watchers and things is it's that having that control, and you're constantly tracking. I've tried to do it myself, tracking with MyFitnessPal, but you've literally in that cycle of counting every single calorie, whether Weight Watchers want to call it points, some people want to call it sins. MyFitnessPal is just calories. It's all the same. You are tracking calories, and your body isn't a calculator. Your body doesn't understand what a calorie is. Your body understands nutrients. And you look at the food pyramid, and I think South Park did an episode showing what the true food pyramid is like, and it's upside down. But the reason is that, again, it's all down to corruption and money. There's no money in the meat industry. Farmers make very little profit, whereas if you've got a factory churning out cornflakes, sell them at £2 a packet, and it costs you like a penny to make. That's a massive industry. Then you've got the people who make the glucose that goes into the cornflakes, the people that make all the other ingredients. It's an absolute billion-dollar industry. So obviously they don't want to tell you that this stuff's bad for you, because it's the same with the medical industry. It's all about profit at the end of the day. They don't want you to know what's good for you, because they'll put themselves out of business.
Do you want to ask a question there, Peter? Or do you want to, you okay?
Oh, no, that was just a remark. It's just nice to see that there's experience among other people also in the chat, that they don't need exercise to lose weight. So just going back to the topic from just now, but
yeah, I'd love to, now, especially now spring's here, I'd love to be able to sort of, go out for a walk on my lunch break and stuff like that. But unfortunately, because of the way my knee is, it's just not possible at the moment. So it's getting a lot stronger. I've done a lot of, I think part of that's diet, part of it's going to the gym. I'm doing a lot of alternative therapies and things like that as well. So it's hard to put a finger on, just say it's one thing. I think it's a combination of everything, but I'd say primarily the right foods is the main thing.
So you mentioned, sorry, Peter, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I was wondering, Susan, about your joint pain. What did the doctors tell you to do back in the day that you were on a different diet? Did they prescribe medicine, or was it end of treatment? Or
yeah, they haven't really given me any advice with regards to diet, because really, the only people who give dietary advice to are people who are heavily overweight. Yes, I've lost weight, but compared to a lot of people, I wasn't obese. I was just a bit fat, really. I wasn't like super big or anything. So because I'd say it was really frustrating, because I'd be in like Facebook groups and things for like people with osteoarthritis. It's basically degeneration of the joint. It's wear and tear. So it's not just inflammation. And everyone would be like, oh, they won't operate on me unless I lose weight. And I was like, I wish that was a problem. Weight is problem for me. I had to, I've lost 1.5 stone for me, which is, the equivalent of 2 dress sizes. So it wasn't a weight issue. It's just that the bones, the joint is just worn away, really. So it's just finding a way to heal that. And I do know from speaking to other carnivore people that they say that eventually they think that, you know, it can heal. And I was reading some of Sean Baker's book yesterday, and funny enough, I just got to the bit where he mentioned osteoarthritis and said, although it is wear and tear, there was also a lot of inflammation, which eventually the carnivore diet can heal. So, and I totally believe, I've seen all the testimonies. You've only got to look at, like, you know, you've got Mark, who's got all his clients and all the testimonies he's got. You look at people like, you know, the big influencers in America, like Anthony Chaffee and Sean Baker, and the number of people who've just healed so much. You know, it just healed, because fat isn't bad for you. Your brain needs fat, your muscles need fat. And by cutting out all the carbs and the sugar, that is what is causing a lot of these chronic diseases. And as you're probably more than likely aware, you know, you've got a chronic disease, they prescribe you some medication, then they prescribe some more medication to counteract the side effects of that medication. And before you know it, you're on 8 different kinds of medication, eating a crap diet, and wondering why you're not getting any better.
Yeah, and just before we answer this question from Lambs, this is what really frustrates me when we look at our system, is when people are overweight, the first protocol is from the doctor, okay, you need to lose weight, but they're not focusing on, like you mentioned, Susan, the inflammation. They're not focusing on the healing process. They're not focusing on what's the most important thing. Like with Susan, as we spoke about from the very, very beginning, Susan's been with me now for 3 months, but she's also done this 2 months herself. She knows what she has to do. Within 5 months, this woman had made unbelievable changes to her life. You just need to look at her. She looks a lot better. She's a lot healthier. She knows she's going in the right direction. I'm absolutely convinced that if she keeps on doing this, her life is going to improve. Those conditions are going to improve. That pain is going to be gone. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're just focusing on telling people, okay, listen, you've got all these problems and all you need to do is just lose weight, that's sending out the wrong message. In my opinion, it's just sending out the wrong message. You need to focus on what's important.
You can lose weight by not eating and starving yourself. You could be anorexic, you can be bulimic, you can lose weight by, like, you know, just eating, you know, literally starving yourself and just eating a calorie deficit, as I say. Yes, but you're not feeding your body. Body's not getting any nutrients that it needs. So, and people aren't interested in the cause. Doctors aren't taught about what's looking at the root cause. You know, for a lot of diseases, it's all about putting a plaster on it. What medications can we prescribe? I think in med school they literally have 1 day of training on nutrition, and most of them just don't turn up because they think it's a day off.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's just like, listen, the world creates this big, massive problem, and then we go to see our doctors. They're not fixing the problem at all. They're just basically saying, like, listen, we know nothing about nutrition, but we have a solution to your problem. We're just going to give you these medications. We're not even going to talk to you about your problem. We're not even going to talk to you about nutrition. We're just going to give you this medication. It's just so wrong.
Nobody's mentioned diet to me or what I'm eating or anything, you know, to reduce the inflammation, you know. And even when I, you know, went to the doctors about my IBS or my depression, for example, no one ever asked me, what are you eating, or question whether it could be, you know, whether I could change the way I eat to you know, help myself heal.
And I only put a video about this yesterday. I don't know if you guys seen it, but they were saying, like, listen, I know it's a different subject, like Ozempic. They're saying, like, it's costing the system so much money to give people these drugs. But this doctor claims that this is going to work out cheaper in the long run, because the likes of dermatologists, that all these people that we need to look after us, is going to cost us a lot more money in the long run. And this guy was saying, okay, well, maybe if we just give people the Ozempic, it would be cheaper in the long run. Absolutely crazy. It really, really frustrated me. Frustrated me.
I mean, it's very new on the market, so obviously there's no long-term studies on exactly what the long-term effects are, but you've only got to, like, you know, glance at the news to see people with horrendous side effects. I know you posted something. I've seen a few other people share it about a guy who's, I think, suddenly couldn't see.
Oh yeah.
My sister-in-law has been taking it, and she's had gallstones, kidney stones, been very, very sick. But she's losing weight, so she's not bothered about the effects. But you know, if a year down the line she becomes chronically sick, then she is going to regret it. But at the moment, people are just so bothered about a quick fix. No one wants to look at the root cause or any other alternatives. And I know someone who's taking the other one, Monjaro, and people I spoke to, apparently, again, she's been extremely unwell. But literally, the second you stop taking it, all it does is curb your appetite. So you're just starving yourself. So the second you stop taking it, your appetite's back, and you're just going to go back to eating what you did before.
Okay, so we have a question here. Now I have an opinion on this, but I'll get you guys to answer this. I would also advise glucosamine for the knee pains. I have family members that are having results with these. It might speed up the process. What's your opinion on this?
I think that's the same as MSN, which is sulfur, which I'm already taking. I'm not, because someone else, which I was advised about, I will double check that, because someone else mentioned glucosamine to me, and I was chatting to the other day, and I'm not. I automatically assumed it was MSN sulfur, so I'll double back on that, because thank you for that. I've literally tried. You know, MSN's the only supplement I've took long term, because it seems to be the most recommended thing, and I'm now taking something else that a friend's recommended, but it's early days, so it's hard to say. But yeah, thanks for that, Lance. Appreciate it.
We'll try that. Okay, so I want to go back to you. Now, you mentioned earlier about calories and how you struggled with your calories when you used to do these diets in the past. So from what you know now compared to what you used to know about calories, what's the biggest misconception when it comes to calorie count, in your opinion?
Calories, you're just starving yourself for nutrients, because your body's not a calculator. Your body doesn't understand calories. It's just, you're just basically starving yourself. When you go into a calorie diet, your body needs nutrients, and if you eat the right nutrients and cut out, it's sugar that causes all this fat. And what people don't realize is that carbohydrates are a sugar. You know, all carbohydrates break down to sugar eventually. So if you go out and buy a low fat, for example, which I used to swear by myself, what they're doing, it's not low fat. They just took all the goodness out and just put a load of like fake sugars in it.
And when you were doing this, were you one of those people that would be, when you used to do these diets in the past, you would be convinced that, listen, okay, a low fat diet is the best for me because I need to be focused on my calories? Like 1 gram of fat has like 9 calories.
Yeah, absolutely. It was only last year that I after sort of learning about ketogenic and carnivore, that I realized that, you know, potentially you didn't need to eat a low calorie diet. And so my primary reason for starting carnivore was to help my knee pain, but I also saw all the testimonies about people losing weight, and you know, obviously I wanted to lose some weight as well, and I was just struggling with the, you know, I couldn't be bothered doing Slimming World never worked for me. Weight Watchers is just a waste of time these days. It doesn't, and it's just really hard counting calories all the time.
And can I just mention as well, Susan, because I can't remember, but when we worked with each other at the very, very beginning, when I mentioned that we need to focus on the healing process first, did we lose any weight in that like 3 to 4 weeks, or was everything just solved?
Lost weight. I think I've lost weight consistently.
So it was so since day one, when we went through the healing process, we were still consistently losing weight on a week-to-week basis.
Reason I reached out, because although I'd done carnivore, I'd been doing, before I reached out, I'd done carnivore myself for a month. But I didn't really know what I was doing with it. I was just kind of flapping around in the wind, just like eating a bit of pork here, a bit of gammon there, a bit of bacon here, a bit of steak here. I didn't really understand what I was doing or how to go about it, because there was so much information online. I was just getting really confused. And people like, eat until you're full, but you know, then I wasn't having enough fat. So that's why I decided to reach out, because I wanted to really learn about what I should be eating. It's all very well saying, just, you know, you can just go carnivore. I mean, I still lost a couple of pounds, but I wasn't eating the right nutrients. Like, for example, sort of learning that pork's not really the best quality meat to have. You know, really you're better on red meat.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people, when they think of the carnivore diet, they think it's this magic diet that if I do it, I'm going to lose so much weight. You probably will, but the problem is when I work with people, it's very, very important that at the very, very beginning, you need to heal the body first. So at the beginning, you're not focusing on like how many macros you're eating. You're just eating until you're full, and that's it, because you're just giving your body what it needs in order to heal. But then after that, when we want to focus on dropping body fat, well, this is where you need to calculate your macros. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, listen, like all you need to do is just eat when you're full and you will lose weight. That might actually work for you. But there's a lot of people, like for Susan, for example, that has to track her macros in order for her to drop body fat. You know what I mean? So I could say to Susan, okay, listen, just eat whatever you want. As long as it's carnivore, eat as much ribeyes as you want, as much steak as you want. And then she goes away and she does all this, and then she starts putting on a lot of weight. Well, obviously she's not doing it properly. You know what I mean? And then another mistake people tend to do is when they try to do the carnivore diet, they tend to go very, very high protein. They'll eat so much protein and then they'll neglect the fat. They'll bring the fat down extremely low, and then they'll say, you know what, I tried the carnivore diet, it didn't work, I was miserable doing it. Where am I going wrong? Yeah. Guys, the fats is extremely important. We have to understand this, that when it comes to our energy sources, we have two. We can have carbohydrates as an energy source, or we can have fats as an energy source. Now, the problem with carbohydrates is it leads to a lot more problems. This is what Susan was struggling with for a long, long time. She was struggling with her eating habits, her cravings, inflammation, joint pain. I could go on and on and on. It's not until she got rid of all that and then she implemented a higher fat diet. This is when things improved for her. Hugely, not just her weight, her overall health has improved. You've heard it from her. She used to suffer from IBS. That's gone. Her mental health issues are gone. This is not just a fad, guys. No doctors could tell her this advice. Now she's doing this. She's done all this research on herself, and now she's coming out the other side, and now she's telling people, she's sharing her story. So this is pretty much all the research you need. Listening to people like Susan, listen to people like Peter, who's a type 1 diabetic. You know what I mean? This is all the research you need. What other research do you want?
Yeah, and just to touch back to what you said there about people doing it, you know, not really understanding diet, you've got to realize it's not an instant fix as well. Your body, you know, in the first couple of weeks, a lot of people stop because they say, oh, I had an upset stomach, or I wasn't very well, I had headaches, I was tired. But your body's detoxing from all. You've got to remember, you spent so many years eating all this crap food. As soon as you cut it out, your body's detoxing, so you're going to feel like a bit drained. You might have an upset stomach. You've got to just, you know, get past that and let your body. It's like if you go for, you know, if you get food poisoning, then your body detoxes. It takes a few days for, you know, because it's a change. You've got your system knows. Your body is amazing. Your body knows what it needs, and it knows what, you know. That's why I was getting the IBS all the time, because of all the toxins I was putting in my body. So as soon as I stopped eating the toxins, my body was like, right, okay, we can relax now, we can heal, right, let's start flushing out those toxins. And, you know, the depression, again, it wasn't an instant thing. You know, I still had ups and downs through, you know, a few months. Some weeks were fine, other weeks I still felt really crap. But, you know, since sort of a couple of months in, it's been consistent. I've not really had a day where I've felt I've struggled with mental health, and that's I have the everyday stresses in life, and I get annoyed. I found I was getting made redundant. There's lots of general things in life, but you can't change them, and I still get stressed and I still get angry. But the actual depression and the need to take medication for it is completely gone.
Can I ask,
Susan?
Sorry, I'm just going to ask one more question, Peter. Sorry, Susan. the diagnosis that we're told about IBS, what is it currently today?
Well, I got diagnosed years ago. No one sort of knew the cause. I had loads of tests because I was getting upset stomachs all the time. So I had like a camera up me, a camera down me, and eventually they just went, "We don't know what it is. It's IBS. Here's some tablets to take for the stomach cramps and the upset stomachs." And to be fair, they didn't really work. They didn't really change anything. So I stopped taking them anyway because they weren't helping. And obviously, then I learned, I knew my body was flushing out stuff it didn't need, but I didn't understand what was triggering it and making it bad.
Sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was wondering about how fast did you transition towards, let's say, the ketogenic spectrum of diets in carnivore? I might have missed it, but
I know. Well, I did ketogenic for a month. I waited until I sort of did all my research on it, and then as soon as payday came around, I sort of did my grocery shop and did like a ketogenic shop with full fat yogurt and lots of things like that, and I cut out all the processed stuff. And it was only a few weeks in that I started learning about carnivore. And once I read about it, it was one of those. It's like any rabbit hole you go down. I just realised that what these people were saying was right, and that we had been lied to on a massive scale, and that it's basically it's a natural way of eating. It's an ancestral way of eating. Basically, our ancestors didn't have access to the local Tesco's or Sainsbury's or whatever.
yeah.
They couldn't just rustle put some cornflakes out of glucose and sugar or a bit of pasta. They just animals and the odd sort of berries. And if you can tolerate vegetables and fruit, then great, by all means do. But they do have oxalates in. They do have a lot of toxins in. And people need to realise as well that a lot of fruit and veg isn't native to the area we live in, and been genetically modified. Like bananas are, now are absolutely nothing like what they were naturally occurring. They've been genetically modified. You've got all the crops that are being sprayed with glyphosates. Even the organic, they can just mark organic on anything. So even the organic veg these days isn't actually genuine organic. Sure, you buy seeds, you grow yourself, but you don't know if those seeds are modified.
Yeah. Especially in England, right? In such a climate, the offer of vegetables and fruits should be very limited.
Well, yeah, I've got a greenhouse. I got into gardening a couple of years ago. I'm not big, not a massive garden or anything, but we're trying to grow little bits and pieces, and they're constantly spraying the skies. You've got chemtrails. They start spraying in the morning at 8 o'clock. By 11 o'clock, the sky's completely white. So nothing was growing last year. It was absolutely terrible. I spoke to so many other people. I started growing in March. It took till September to get a couple of tomatoes. All my courgettes died. We're just being targeted from every angle. They don't want us to eat naturally. They want us to, go to eat processed food. And something interesting I heard the other day, which I hadn't thought about before, is it was actually said, I can't remember who said it, but when they asked why they don't teach home economics or cooking in schools anymore, it's because they want you to rely on the system. So we don't get taught how to cook in schools anymore. You don't learn any useful skills. What's better to learn? Something that happens World War One, spend 3 hours a day talking in history about that, or cut it in half and spend an hour learning some actual skills like cooking, carpentry, something that will be useful to you.
Like you mentioned, when's the last time we walked into a shop and we saw vegetables that were literally dirty that came out of the ground? Whereas now you walk into a shop, all our vegetables are packaged. You look at the ingredients, you're like, okay, well, why are all these ingredients in this food? You know what I mean? You look at our carrots. We all know what a carrot looks like. Whereas now you can actually buy carrots in a packet. You can see they're made in a lab, but people have no problems eating this food whatsoever. And I'll tell you the reason why people have no problems eating this food is because it's cheap. It's very, very cheap. People are struggling financially at the moment. they're not gonna pay for the organic foods because they can't afford it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So,
Mm.
and then when it comes to our shit food like chicken and beef and all that kind of stuff, again, people can't afford the right stuff, or they're being uneducated about the right stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why they're being led down this rabbit hole. As I do this all the time when I'm walking into the shop. What they're doing is they know exactly how to market the kids. They know exactly the foods that you're going to come back all the time and keep on buying because it tastes really, really good. So it's just an addiction. They're feeding your addiction over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and another mistake that is made is that people rely on government and institutions of checking all the food. And you got thousands of products. You think every product is checked, and there are rules about how many amounts of certain substances can be in food. And yeah, you have to trust that it's all been checked very carefully, and that, of course, is not true. We don't know the outcomes of all these things in our food, what effect it has on health. You cannot check it.
And like what Tony mentioned a few weeks ago, we had this conversation, and I know you know a little bit about this as well, Susan, about the Bover scandal. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I noticed that on Arla in Northwest is apparently closing, but yeah, they put, like people believe that cow farts are damaging to the planet, that climate change is real. The climate changes, that's what happens. That's not the cause of all the issues and stuff. But yeah, it is really hard, and you've got the Bovaer. You don't know what your cows are injected with. All you can do is your best, and grass fed is obviously the best, but if you can't afford it, just buy the best quality meat you can afford. I don't buy grass fed, it's out of my budget. I'd love to be able to, but even then you're still reliant on the farmers being honest. You don't know what's been injected into them. Short of actually going to the farm yourself, speaking to the farmer, you're never going to know what medications they've been given and stuff. But the worst quality meat is still better than the best quality.
Absolutely. And I think the main thing we need to do is we need to do whatever it takes to keep these butchers in business. I think if these butchers run out of business, that's when we're in serious trouble. That's when we're in the hands of the wrong people.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we saw with in the UK, you may or may not be aware, Peter, but they've targeted the farmers with a really high inheritance tax, which there was a massive protest about, because people just can't afford to, keep the farms on if they're going to be taxed so much when they, when they pass over and their kids take over. And it's all targeting the industry. The Bovaer again is to crush the meat industry. People are going to go, oh, I don't want that in my food. I'm going to eat like plant-based stuff instead. And you see it with plant-based stuff, it's but again, that's full of sugar. And I can say that because I used to work for a company that made like glucose and dextrose and starches and all those kind of things, and one of our biggest customers was the plant-based meat companies, because it was just full of it was made with soy. It's just absolutely terrible for you.
What do you eat, Susan, nowadays?
I eat eggs and red meat. I drink water with electrolytes. I do have coffee. I'll have coffee with fat in it for one of my meals, just to keep the costs down, really, and just have something a bit of flavour. But I only have that first thing in the morning. I realise it's plant-based, but we've all got vices. I hardly drink anymore. I used to I go through phases with alcohol where I'd sort of be like, a glass of wine every night after work, a bottle at the weekends and stuff. I don't really drink anymore. And I don't eat.
And can I ask you a question, Susan? At this stage in your life, with all the trauma that you went through with the diets and all the stress and getting the wrong information, how happy are you right now? How happy are you?
Yeah, I'm a lot happier, and it's frustrating because it's just another thing that that we've been lied to. And the problem is people aren't prepared to do their own research. And because the mainstream media always say, oh, fat causes heart disease. Fat doesn't cause heart disease. Eating the right kind of fat doesn't cause heart disease. Eating stuff that's full of sugar causes heart disease. Perhaps everyone doesn't know, but sugar is the main cause of cancer. What a lot of people advocate, if you've got cancer, the best thing you can do for yourself is to just cut out sugar. That will, go a long way to helping you. And sugar causes obviously diabetes. People don't want to do any independent research, or actually do we think they want to just be spoon fed from the government? All you see on the TV is adverts for fast food or Uber Eats, or delivered to you Deliveroo, or delivered to you. McDonald's is constantly advertising, and we're just bombarded with 24/7.
Exactly.
5 a day.
Yeah, so that leads us into a very, very good topic actually about sugar. We actually have a video that we're actually going to watch.
You're right, Mark.
now,
I was just thinking about it.
Let's
Let
go.
me start
Let's
it
go
up.
to work. Let's get to work.
First, let's write that down.
I want these guys are getting richer while you're getting sicker. Write that down. 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 These foods are highly processed, complete garbage, and I can promise you now, I wouldn't even give it to my fucking dog. Write that down.
Yes. Let's see. I'm new at this, so let's look at the video.
Let's watch this video.
I think it's this one. Is it the fiber more important than protein? No, it's
lose weight, but you're avoiding fruit because you think it's going to give you high blood sugar, then watch this. When you eat a high-fat diet, the fat blocks the glucose from getting into the cells. So if you're eating a lot of fruit along with a lot of fat, yes, that's probably going to cause you some problems. But it's not the fruit that's causing the problem, it's the fat that's causing the problem. Because the sugar isn't going to be able to get into the cells, and it's going to stay stuck in the bloodstream because of the fat, and that's what's going to give you high blood sugar and insulin resistance. So your pancreas is going to have to work overtime, your adrenal glands are going to have to work overtime to try to drive that sugar into the cells. But if you cut back or even eliminate the fat and you get that out of the way, then the sugar is able to easily get into the cells. And that's exactly what you want. So if you're trying to lose weight by eating more fruit, make sure you're keeping your diet low in fat.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm sure you've seen that video, Susan, on my Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
So what it was. So basically, I put this video up yesterday of this influencer, this female influencer, that's claiming that we shouldn't be afraid of sugar. Fat is the problem. What's your opinion on this, Susan?
Well, again, I feel like a lot of these people, they're just making it up as they go along. They're just overcomplicating it. How is that? They're making it very, very difficult. In the same way as counting calories, you've got to be constantly tracking something. You look at history, you look at the Eskimos, for example, who eat primarily red meat. They're not fat. They live like a lot longer than a lot of people. You look at our ancestors, you look at our grandparents, they weren't generally fat because they didn't have all this processed stuff. They weren't eating sugars, they weren't eating these modified fruits, etc. It's just making things very complicated. How are you supposed to track that? Well, I can't have my fat at the same time as my fruit, because that will block that. They're just pushing. It's a big con, basically, just to push. They want everyone to be plant-based because they know that meat is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And people that don't want to eat for ethical reasons. I've tried veganism myself and vegetarianism, but again, if you look into it without going into too much detail, there's a lot of animals actually killed through the harvesting of the crops and things. So unfortunately, carnivores actually the kindest way if the animals are dealt with properly. It's actually the kindest for the planet, and it's just how we are designed to live, really. It'd be great vegan, you know, vegetables were good for us and vegetables weren't toxic and it was how we were meant to be, and no animals were harmed in the making of them, great. But that's just not how life works.
What about you, Pierre?
Yeah, well, there is some truth in what she's saying, yeah, but wait for it, because I'm not agreeing with a lot of what she's saying for the rest. And that's about fat and carbohydrates. If you combine them, what in her case is also what's also a bad idea is combining high carb with fat. Just as you shouldn't add carbs to fat, but it's the Randall cycle, right? And if you go high carb and you take a little bit of fat for the essential fats, then in theory, you could manage to get some sort of a diet that is reasonable, but it won't last for long.
Exactly.
And go the other way, you'll get much better results because you'll focus on the fats with all the fat-soluble vitamins and all these things. And you add in, maybe you add in even a little bit of carbohydrates, but
yeah, I don't think it's
that's it.
Shape or form. I'm just saying it would be nice, in an ideal world, that's what people would like, is a way of like nobody gets harmed, etc. But that is the way of life, and carbohydrates are full of sugar and they're bad. And a lot of people can't take vegetables because of all the reasons we talked about. The things.
Yeah.
But when you hear about the fats and the carbohydrate debates, that we need to focus on the absorption here. So this is what people need to understand when it comes to slowing the process down. So a lot of people will say that when they're doing these protein diets, that they have to have the vegetables, the fiber is so important because it stops that glucose spike. It actually controls all of that. But I only did a video on this today. If we remove the problem in the first place, which is the glucose, the excess glucose, then you don't need to rely on these problems. So if you're having the carbohydrates, we don't need the fats to slow down the absorption of the sugars. All we need to do pretty much is just remove the problem in the first place.
You just don't eat the sugar. And the thing with
don't eat the sugars in the first place. That's it.
Yeah, something we didn't mention is once you actually start with the carnivore, you don't actually have cravings for any of this stuff. You don't feel the need to eat between meals. You don't want to eat the sugar. I've not had anything like that for months now. When I think at Christmas, I had a couple of chocolates and I could taste like the chemicals in them. You taste completely. It just doesn't appeal. I walk around the supermarket now and, usually I'd be always be tempted by the chocolate aisle, for example. And again, chocolate, it's got these chemicals in it that make you want more. Like you can't, you go to the shop and it's 80 pence for one chocolate bar or £1.23. You're like, oh, well, I'm not going to waste my money. I'll have 3. Literally, you think, oh, I'll have 1 and save the rest for another day. By the time you've got home, you've eaten all 3 and then you're hungry 10 minutes later.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is what annoyed me about that video with this influencer. If you look at her, she looked extremely thin, like really, really thin. She had no muscle on her whatsoever, which is, I don't know how old she is, but it's not a good sign. And we know from speaking about this earlier how important it is to build muscle and not focus too much on weight loss. Because weight loss and building muscle to look a certain way is 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
We should be focusing on longevity instead of like weight loss. We need to move away from this poison that it's all about weight loss. Just focus on weight loss. Focus on this. Focus on the scales. Focus on the scales. If that number goes up, this is something you need to worry about. No, we don't. Stop panicking about this shit. Because it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You should focus on the 2 most important things. That's how you feel and that's how you look. If you know you are changing, like your clothes are getting too big, you can notice it when you put a pair of trousers on. Like these are fitting a lot better. You're going the right direction. If you're walking around and you're feeling absolutely incredible, like really, really good, that's all that matters. If you go home and you've nailed those 2 boxes, but you go home and you stand on the scales and the scales hasn't moved in 4 weeks and you panic over that and you're like, Jesus, I haven't made any progress, which unfortunately is taking over the world at the moment, that's when you're going to run into major, major problems. And we need to get rid of this poison as quick as possible.
Yeah,
Now,
well,
Mark, chiming in on your remark about fiber, it's all damage control. Adding fiber to your diet and calorie counting. You start with a shitty diet, full of
Yeah.
sugar, carbohydrates. You take fiber to slow down the absorption. You take fiber because you get less of the right fatty acids. The bacteria produce the fatty acids, that sort of things. You count calories to sort of control your energy intake. That's just wrong. You should be eating intuitively, and that's it. I imagine, Susan, you're eating like that as well. Besides maybe some macro counting, you're primarily eating in an intuitive way, right?
exactly. And just to go back to what Mark said about building muscle, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're not building muscle, that's what being extremely thin. That's this is what leads to things like osteoporosis. As you get older, you start getting brittle bones. Old people
Sarcopenia as well. Yeah,
their bones break more easily and stuff. So if you've not, if you're just vegan or whatever and you're not building any muscle, as you get older, you're going to become very prone to all these diseases, degenerative diseases, because your body's got no muscle, no substance to it, basically, which need that, and go back to what you said about the scales, that has always, it's literally ingrained to you, focus on the scales. But I actually track measurements. I've, over my body, 5 centimeters for a couple of months. It was nearly like 2/3 of a meter around my whole body. So whereas the scales have only dropped 20 pounds, which is a lot for me, but for some people that might not be very much. But 20 pounds and all that weight, those inches I've lost is it's massive.
So we're coming to the end, Susan. So if anybody's watching this that was in the same situation as you, who's really struggling with their weight, that they're doing all the diets, they're saying to themselves, like, listen, there's something wrong with me. Like, I'm broken. It's not working for me. No matter what diet I do, it's not working. What advice would you give these people?
I would say do your research. Carnivore, literally, it's if you do your research, it's just saves so many lives. It helps your mental health. I'm living proof. I know so many people online who do it. I know a few people in person, and I only have to look at when I go out with some friends, and I look at like the vegans in the group, and I can see how pale and unhealthy they look in comparison. So I'd absolutely say it. And if you're not sure what you're doing with carnivore, if you can get a coach, you might be able to afford it long term. But if you can get a coach to help you for a month, like Mark or whoever appeals to yourself, get that help to get you started. And your health is with you for life, really. You can't put a price on your health. I didn't realize that. I was so busy going out running and enjoying myself and drinking and whatever. It's only now that I've come to the point where my knee's completely wrecked and I can't walk around that I've really started to think about it. But if you can stop and think about it before you get to this stage, do it. Take action now. Don't wait till you've got a health problem.
Yeah, I would just add to that if you guys are struggling and you've done all the weight or you've done all the diets, there's a reason why they don't work, guys, because they're all the exact same. They're just all restriction. You're just restricting you're just restricting your food. You can do as many diets but at the end of the day, they're all the exact same thing. You're just lowering your calories. And unless you focus on the type of food that you're eating instead of just calories, you're always going to struggle, because if you're eating a diet that consists of carbohydrates and vegetables, you're going to run into problems. If you have processed food in there as well, you're going to run into problems. You have to understand that if you want to drop body fat, not weight, you need to focus on your hormones, and in particular your insulin. Now, insulin is a hormone that people need to understand this. You will not drop body fat. You will not burn body fat if insulin is elevated too high. And this is what Susan was struggling with all her life. She could never understand why she had those regular those hunger issues, those cravings. She could never understand when she lost all of that weight and then she put it straight back on. It's because she only put a band-aid on the problem. She did not fix the problem. Whereas if we focus on leptin, which is the other hormone, which is what keeps you full, and what a lot of people are doing at the moment with this Ozempic shite is they're focusing on getting these injections because it switches off that hunger hormone. Susan was able to do this naturally. Okay, let me repeat that. She's doing this naturally, guys, without any side effects. She's dropping weight and she's in the best health possible. So we need to move away from this diet culture. We need to move away from these low calorie diets, these low fat diets, and we just need to give the body the nutrients it needs to thrive on. What about you, Pierre?
Yeah. I wanted to add to that, Mark, that you should trust the stories that you hear, because food is very complicated, food and health. So you can focus on science and publications, but they all focus on single aspects of the diet, and they try to find some correlations and that sort of things. But if you listen to the full, complete stories of people, that's where you get the information. That's where you hear like this and this in the diet. By doing this and this, I get this and this benefit. And you cannot get it from research. And those researches, they are on big populations typically. And as I said, focusing on single aspects of the diet. And you cannot convert it into practical ideas for your diet and your lifestyle usually. And I mean, science has its place, of course, but yeah, look on the internet, look on YouTube, and listen to the story of Susan and all the thousands of interviews by now. Look at Dave Mack's channel, for example. I think he has done 1,000 as well. Mm. Those stories, each one of them is valuable for small conditions, very strong conditions, anything.
Yeah, carnivores, I say, not just for weight loss. You know, as a lady I know, like long-term health conditions, she's tiny. But she's trying carnivore to help her health. I've been thin before. I've been thinner than I am now. But I was also very unhealthy. I had the IBS. I was still depressed, low energy. Just because you've got a skinny body doesn't mean to say that you're healthy. So if anyone's out there who says, "Oh, I don't need to lose weight," that's carnivore's not just for losing weight. I'm only losing weight because my body needs to lose weight. I had too much fat on it. If you don't need to lose weight, you're not going to suddenly start dropping several stone. But it will improve your overall health.
Well said. Well said.
And you will always find, if you look around on the internet, whatever condition you have, except maybe very rare conditions, you'll always find somebody with the same condition as you have had, and who is on the keto or carnivore diet, and talk with them or find discussion groups. That sort of things can be very useful.
So much
amazing.
Absolutely, just go for it. Say, it's about your overall health. And just to add as well, people assume, talks about cost before market. It's not as expensive as people think, because you're not buying all the crap as well. You're not going out and buying those chocolate bars every day. You're not going to Starbucks. You're not just buying like all those extra pasta sauces, or if you're having a steak, for example, you're not buying like a load of sauces to go with it, and sweet potato fries and a load of vegetables. That's your total cost. So it's not as expensive as people think. And they say you don't have to buy the grass-fed meat. If you'll eat minced beef, that's cheap to eat. Eggs aren't that expensive, so it's not some inhibiting, really expensive diet that inhibits people.
Exactly. Good point. Okay, Susan. Well, thanks very much for coming on. So where can people go to find you?
I've got an Instagram account which I've just set up recently. It's Carnivore Gal, GAL UK. So it's a new account. I only set it up last week, so I knew I was coming on the podcast. So any followers would be appreciated. I've put a few things on there, but I will post some more. It's just sort of been a busy few days with work and everything. So, but yeah, I've got some more followers. And I'm happy to chat with anyone who wants to know about my experience. You can see a before and after photo on there, of what I looked like back in April last year, and compared to my body shape now. And I'm not even at my goal yet. I've still got a little way to go. So, but I'm absolutely over the moon with my progress so far. But as I keep saying, you know, it's hard not to, but weight loss shouldn't be your primary focus. It should be your overall health. I appreciate as a woman, it's hard to go for that, but you know, it's a win-win situation. You'll get the best of both worlds.
Welcome to the social media world.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks very much, guys, and we'll speak very, very soon.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for sharing your story, Susan.
Alright.
Okay, yeah, let's wrap it up then.
Yeah, it's all done.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, well, you can say where you are, Susan.